Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
You are now tuned in to this week's episode of our podcast. Today we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. By sharing our collective expertise, we will show you how to harness, control, and use your own skill set to achieve ultimate success and live the life you want. And now, please welcome your host.
It's your host, Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. My name is Amabala Stephen, and welcome to the show. This podcast focuses on self-improvement and personal development topics with the occasion of experts and professionals who come to the show to share their insights and topics or subjects on the personal development. Now, it's been a worthwhile podcast episodes till date. Today, I have Karen Knight, who is a consultant volunteer leadership expert. She's also a dynamic and engaging speaker. Welcome to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Karen Knight.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking.
All right, looking forward to your professional insight also. I'm Karen. Now you'll be talking about volunteering. Now this is a topic so passionate and so dear to me, right? I love volunteering, right? And I've got some few good ones going for me. Now I need you to tell me more. How did it all start?
For me, the whole volunteering started when I was about 11 years old, and I was visiting my grandmother, and she was in a care home. And everybody that day was very sad because the bingo had been canceled. They played bingo every Wednesday or whatever day it was. And it was canceled because the person who called it couldn't make it that day. So I said, well, I can do that. I can call bingo. It's easy. And so I did. 2 hours we played bingo, and everybody came up to me afterwards. We're so thankful, and you made our day because we were so upset it was not going to happen. And I just got this fire in my heart that I thought, I can make people happy just by spending time with them. And that started me on a whole lifetime of volunteering and working with volunteers.
All right, now let's talk volunteer engagement, right? What do you see as the most important trend in volunteering today?
Appreciation. If you have volunteers, show them appreciation. You may know inside your heart how much you really like them, but make sure they know it. If nothing else, if you don't do anything else with your volunteers, show them how much you appreciate what they do. Because if you don't, they'll be gone. I tell people that appreciation is the air that our volunteers breathe. So without it, your volunteer program won't survive. If you are a volunteer, go where your passion is. Don't volunteer just because you feel you have to or you feel you should. Go to a place that resonates with you, that you really feel passionate about, and then you'll get so much out of it.
All right. Now you're talking about appreciation, and we're managing, right, and volunteers very well in order for them to stay back. Right now, let's look at talent management. Now, nonprofits rely on volunteers. You and I agree on that. But most organizations, they do a poor job of managing these people. So as a result, more than 1/3, right, of these volunteers 1 year do not wait, right, to do volunteering the following year, right, as a non-profit. So do you have any strategy approach you like to offer in this regard?
Again, it comes back to appreciation, but a lot of it too is being ready for your volunteers. I volunteered once at a museum, and I signed up, I got all the paperwork. They said, okay, this is when your shift starts. So I went there and I said, here I am, what would you like me to do? And the person in charge just looked at me blankly. They had no clue. And I thought, well, I mean, it was my first shift. Maybe they weren't expecting me, all this stuff. but it happened 3 times in a row that I went there and they just were so disorganized, and they had me doing stupid make work projects I really got the feeling that I was being more of a hassle than a help to them. And so I never went back. And so be ready for your volunteers, have important things for them to do. And they don't have to be big things or vital things, but they have to be something that helps the mission, because that's why people volunteer, is because they believe in what you're doing. So if you show, even if you're just filing or doing something small, if you can show a line between what they're doing and how it helps their mission and what they're doing in the world, then people will stick around. They want to be making a difference. And if they feel that they're making a difference, then they'll stick around.
All right. I know that you're a professional in the area of volunteering. I would like you to share, successful strategies for recruiting, training, and utilizing volunteers.
Training's big, because again, people like to feel like they're helping, and to do that, they need to know what they're doing, and they don't want to make mistakes. Or I was working with an organization that was a hospice, so people who were in care, and the training was quite poor. And one of the volunteers was making beds for the clients, and she left a crease in the bottom sheet, and the client got bed sores. And the volunteer was heartbroken that she had caused pain and suffering to this client she was trying to help. And so she left, she quit. I'm not good enough for this. But it wasn't her fault, it was the training. So make sure even the simplest tasks, you take the time to show them how it's done and give them instructions so that they can feel good about what they're doing. And if you do that well, you'll get people whose skills will increase, and that gives them a reason for coming back, because a lot of people volunteer because they want to improve their skills. And it'll help your clients, and it'll help your mission go forward if your volunteers are well trained. So take the time to build a good training program.
Right. Now let's talk about inclusion and diversity in volunteering. Now that is very important, topic for discussion, especially in this era of change. Now, what suggestions do you have for non-profits, right, to increase diversity, right, in their volunteering?
This is something that's really quite close to my heart. I come from a family that was, or is, I have to be honest, is extraordinarily racist. I grew up in a very small community, and if you weren't exactly like us, there was something wrong with you, and I grew up with that. And it wasn't until I left that small town and moved to Vancouver, British Columbia, and met some of these people that were constantly being called down on that my eyes were opened, and the entire world expanded for me. All of a sudden, there was so much more to enjoy in the world. And so diversity and equity inclusion, that's something that means a lot to me. I was attending a diversity training workshop once, and one of the local professors at a local university said something that really resonated with me. He said that we can't create inclusion for other people. We have to co-create it with them. And that I've really taken to heart. And I've talked to all my clients. I say, okay, yes, you want to have inclusion, but you can't just do it on your own. Think about the gaps in your area, like whether that's age or ethnicity or gender or whatever, and then go and talk to them before you start putting a program in place, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So yeah, you can't create inclusion for others. You have to co-create it with them. I love that phrase.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Karen Knight, for that insight, right? And now we talk about the pandemic, COVID-19, and all that goes with it. We all understand the challenges it has brought in so far. So how has the pandemic, how has it impacted, right, voluntary nonprofit?
Oh, in a huge way, because in many cases, not-for-profits, all our volunteers were in person, or 90% of them were all in person, and now they can't be. Many not-for-profits just either put their head in the sand and said, just wait till it goes away. And then it went on and on and on. And even the most conservative not-for-profits are realizing, okay, this isn't going away, so we have to deal with it. And a lot of it is just being really flexible in how you do your programs. One of my clients is a Therapeutic Riding Association. So they take kids with disabilities and put them on horses. And you can't do that. Many of these kids have physical disabilities. They can't stay stable in a saddle. So they have volunteers who walk with them to make sure that they're safe. We couldn't do that. So a lot of riding associations like ours closed down, right? And said, okay, we'll reopen when this happens. The one I was working with, we didn't. What we did was said, okay, how can we do this? Well, we trained the caregivers of our clients to be the volunteers who walk with them, right? So the people in the same bubble, their family members or caregivers, whoever, were the ones who walked with them and were in contact with them, so that we could just keep going the way we always had. And there's kind of a secondary benefit to that, is so many of those people who helped their own family members got so excited and happy with the program that now they're volunteering. Now that it's opening up, they're volunteering with other kids as well, right? So it's just, you just have to be flexible and think creatively. How can we do this? There is a way. We just have to figure it out.
Right. I was working remotely, right? What's the success rate having to work as a volunteer remotely?
The success rate depends very much on how you as an organization puts it through. If you're flexible, if you stay in contact, communication is key. You have to over communicate. Something that you might do 2 or 3 times a week with your volunteers in person, you do every day. Just reach out and talk to them. How's things going? Are you having any problem with your Zoom or with whatever platform you're using? How is it going? Just show that you're interested, that you care, that they're not just in some box somewhere sending stuff out, that they're still part of a team. And if you can make them feel as they're still part of the team and involve them in things as much as possible, then they're a lot more comfortable with it. It is hard. Lots of people are getting really, really tired of being on screens all the time. Yeah,
I quite understand.
And you get that?
That's right.
But, yeah,
I'm sure we're going to get over it, right? And we're almost getting over it, right?
Right.
Right. Sure. Karen, I understand, right? I understand that our volunteer recruitment can easily, right, become a time-consuming process, right? Do you have any strategies as a professional, an expert in your field? Any strategies, or how can we make this process less time-consuming?
I'm not so sold on making everything less time-consuming. Okay, certainly you need to save time, but you need to save time at the back end and not at the front end. So you spend the time on your recruitment and on your training, on getting everybody up and part of the team. If you spend the time there, you won't be spending it re-recruiting and retraining over and over and over again. Because if you do the front part well, your volunteers will stick around. If you do the front part poorly, you'll be doing it over and over and over again. And that's far more of a time waster than spending an extra hour with each volunteer at the beginning. Does that make sense?
Sure. Karen, now, I like to have a volunteer program in my community, right? I would like you to enlighten me or my audience in this